All right, so the first type of questions, this is what it will look like on your test. Okay. You will be allowed to use your cell phone or a device to go to Desmos calculator for the first three. So I'm going to do that here by opening up this. And you have it at your desk, but essentially you go to Desmos.com. Okay, we're going to click on Graphing Calculator. And I'm going to kind of go back and forth here. Okay, so I'm going to type in the three that are in your review. 3x squared plus 2x plus 9, which is red. Negative 2x squared plus 4x plus 13, which is blue. And then 2x squared minus 8x minus 17, which is my green one. All right, so I will start with my red one. And I will click on the major points. The vertex is negative 0.333, 8.667. So when you write that in your answers, okay, clearly this graph goes up and down, or up and down, I'm sorry, this graph goes up. We can read that off the graph. The vertex, since it's going up, is a minimum. You need to circle those two. You need to establish that. Okay, my vertex in this case is, if we go back to the graph, it's negative 0.333, 8.677. If you can't fit it in, just put it above it. Negative 0.333, and then 8.667. You're just copying down the points off the graph. On that graph as well, I'll go back. My y-intercept, I click on that point, is 0.9. And you'll notice on this graph that it does not intersect the x-axis. So while my y-intercept is 0.9, okay, I can plug that in, my intercepts there are none. So I would say no real x-intercepts. And you just write it below that. Okay. For my blue graph here, okay, I'm going to click on that. And my major points, my vertex is 115. My y-intercept is 13. So this graph, if you look at it, is clearly going down, which means the vertex is a maximum. The vertex is 115. The y-intercept is 0.13. And then we're going to click on the x-intercepts, which are negative 1.739 and 3.739. Okay. So when you write them, once again, if you can't fit them on, just write it below. All right, it's negative or above, doesn't really matter to me. Negative 1.7390 and 3.739. Those are your x-intercepts. Okay, you just write them, and do not round. Write exactly what the calculator tells you. All right. Our last one, which is our green graph, that one's going up. My vertex, 2, negative 25. My y-intercept, 0, negative 17. And this graph is clearly going up. So it has a minimum. My graph is going up. It has a minimum, and that minimum vertex point is 2, negative 25. And I have a y-intercept at 0, negative 17. Make sure your signs are correct. And now my x-intercepts, I'm just reading off the graph. And they are, make sure you get a 0 for your y, negative 1.536 and 5.536. So we end up with negative 1.536, 0, 5.536, 0. Okay? and you're doing all of this off your Desmos.com graphing calculator on your phone or on your device. Okay? Once you're done with this, the device goes away. You do not need your device for the rest of the test. Now I'm going to give you a question where I give you the sum of the roots and the product of the roots. And the roots really are your x-intercepts. And we're trying to get the trinomial back. Okay? Or the quadratic equation back. So my roots are x is root 1 and y is root 2. And if I add them, the sum of the roots is 3. And if I multiply them, the product of the roots is negative 28. That's the system you're going to create. We solve for y every single time. So y equals negative x plus 3. And I'm going to take this and plug it in for y. So x times negative x plus 3 equals a negative 28. We distribute negative x squared plus 3x equals a negative 28. Get everything equal to 0 first. Negative x squared plus 3x plus 28 equals 0. And then I want to multiply through by a negative 1. When I'm done with my problem, my x squared should always be positive. And that right there is my answer. If I were to factor that, it would be x minus 7, x plus 4. So my true roots would be 7 and negative 4. 7 and negative 4 is 3. 7 times negative 4 is negative 28. It works on every single level. Second one, same deal. We'll say x is root 1. We'll say y is root 2. X plus y equals 8. X, y equals 15. I'm going to solve for my y. Y equals negative x plus 8. So x times negative x plus 8 equals 15. Negative x squared plus 8x equals 15. We subtract the 8x on both sides. And I multiply everything by negative 1. X squared minus 8x plus 15 is my answer. Okay? If I were to factor this, it'd be x minus 5, x minus 3. So my roots would be 5 and 3. 5 plus 3 is 8. 5 times 3 is 15. It should work out on every single level. All right, we solve through factoring. Our first step is to make sure there's no GCF. There's no number that goes into 3, 11, and 20. So I can go right to my parentheses. And I start by keying on the first and last term, the A term and the C term. The A term is 3, which is nice, because that means it's got to be 3x and x. You don't have any other options. My options for 20 are 4 and 5, 2 and 10, and 1 and 20. Okay. Now, in this case, I can use any of them because none of them create a GCF in a parenthesis. The correct way to go about this would be put the 4 here and the 5 here. Now, how I'm checking that in the end is I am checking off the middle term. The 3x and x are based off the first term. The 4 and 5 are based off the last term. You don't need to check your first and last terms, because if 3x times x wasn't 3x squared, you wouldn't put it there. 4 times 5 didn't equal 20, you wouldn't put it there. But now I need to check my middle term. 3x times 5 is 15x. 4 times x is 4x, and I need to figure out, is there a way to make 15x and 4x combined to be 11x? Sure. If this is a minus and this is a plus. So that means I have a plus here and a minus here. And now my problem has been factored. To finish, we set each factor equal to 0. 3x minus 4 equals 0, so 3x equals 4, and x equals 4 thirds. X plus 5 equals 0. We subtract 5, and x equals a negative 5. Okay, now my second problem clearly does have a GCF. And that GCF is 2x. Anytime you have an x cubed, I'd be looking to get an x out. So 4x squared minus 8x minus 21 equals 0. And now I go to my two parentheses and I bring the GCF down. All right? Now, I usually start with the middle terms. It could be 4x and x or 2x and 2x. I'm going to start with 2x and 2x because the factors of 21 are 1 and 21 and 7 and 3. It's not going to create a GCF with my parentheses. So I'll start with 7 and 3. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I need to adjust. 2x times 3 is 6x. 7 times 2x is 14x. Can I make 6x and 14x equal to negative 8x? Absolutely. If my 14 is a negative, I get a negative 8x in the middle. Now, when there's a variable in the GCF, we do have to set the GCF equal to 0 as well. If there's no variable in the GCF, you don't have to worry about it. When I divide both sides by 2, I get x equals 0. We add 7 and x equals 7 halves. We subtract 3 and then we divide by 2, we get x equals negative 3 halves. And those are our 3 answers. When you have two terms, you still need to find a GCF. If it's there, I'll take a 2 out and you're left with 36x squared minus 25. But with two terms, the middle term is 0. If you have two perfect squares, that's the difference of two squares. This is what's going to be 99% of the time. The square root of 36 is 6. The square root of 25 is 5. And you'll notice your middle term would be 30x and 30x. If one is negative and one is positive, that eliminates the middle term. And now we're setting 6x plus 5 equal to 0. 6x equals a negative 5. X equals negative 5/6. 6x minus 5 equals 0. 6x equals 5. And x equals 5/6. And those are my answers.